So yeah, thank you again for everyone for joining. Today we're going to be covering our multi-location. We're going to give you some talk about the challenges. We're going to talk about like the centralized management capabilities that we offer, user access, as well as some advice for multi-locations. Multi-locations is one of our specialties. We really work well with, people with multiple franchise locations, multiple plants across the board, really. And through this experience, we've learned a lot in terms of like what to do, some of the key things, and how to manage when you have so many people who need access, stuff like that. So we're going to go into that after towards the end there, and then of course any Q&A after. But um, if you're not familiar with SCW, we are a value-driven company that offers end-to-end security solutions. So whether you're looking just for equipment and you've got your own installation teams, we're happy to provide just equipment. If you're looking for turnkey installations, we can also provide that nationwide as well. So, and our claim to fame has always been having world-class US-based support that can help you whatever path you decide to go on. So when it comes to multi-location, one of the most common requests and the biggest challenges is how can they manage all these locations in a single area? There's a lot of maybe confusion on this in terms of, what do you need to actually have multi-location? Some people believe you need like a full-on cloud provider to even manage them, centrally. And what people are actually asking for when they're asking for one pane of glass, one access point, um, they want to be able to see live video from multiple locations all simultaneous together. They want to be able to do playback from multiple locations, or just not have to learn how to go to different places to see playback on one location to another. Um, Same thing for analytics searches. Everything needs to be in a central one point solution for multi-location to really be manageable. Our solution for multi-location is what we call SW ViewStation. So this is software that is available for both Windows and Mac, and it works with our Admiral, Imperial, and Corporal NVRs. And what it allows you to do is bind everything together. So it allows you to view multiple systems simultaneously, even for multiple locations. So, a lot of times we think about multi-site in terms of different physical locations, but sometimes it's even large campuses or other places that use the software because they've got multiple systems throughout the large campus. It also offers a elevated feature set. So, when you get into multi-location, you want to be able to customize things. You want to be able to create custom views. It's some of the stuff we're going to go over. But an elevated feature set over the typical browser view. So some of the key features of this, first off, when it comes to the live view side, this allows us to view 64 cameras live simultaneously. And you can have up to 64 different NVRs on it, or up to 512 individual channels with zero fees. So, for most of our clients, or most people, this is going to be everything they need without having to pay any additional yearly recurring update fees or anything like that. And I could talk about it, but I do think the easiest way of going over it is just a quick live demo here for you guys. So I'm going to pop open into ViewStation here and just go over kind of the feature set that multi-locations typically are looking for. So first place I'm going to go into is live view. Every client is a little different, right? So some of them are relying on having some kind of centralized live view. So they may be just watching something frequently, or it might just be to check in, make sure things look okay. And so let's dive into that. So the first thing we're going to see here on the left is our list of NVR. So you see I have three different locations here. I've got our little 4-channel, our main office, and our warehouse NVR. And on the bottom here, this is where I can select how many cameras I want to view. This is where we get into a lot of the customization. You can see I actually can create a custom grid. Lots of functionality with this. But for now, I'll just choose a simple 16 camera grid. And to bring up the warehouse, for example, all I have to do is double click and it will load those cameras. And now if I want to switch over to the office space, I just have to double click that one and that will bring it up there as well. Now I'm remote from all these locations, so you can see it's pretty quick to come up. We got decent internet over there, so switching between them is really easy. And you can also choose to bring individual cameras up if you want to too. So if I close this out and choose maybe a smaller one here, like the foregrid, I can choose to drag and drop from any systems I want. So maybe I want to choose this one from the 4 channel. I want to choose maybe this from the other location. And then I want 2 of them from the warehouse. So maybe I'll do this one and let's choose this one. And so this gives you custom flexibility and be able to not just see locations back to back very quickly like I just showed you, but also the ability to customize what you want to see. Now we can take that actually even a step further. Let me choose a different grid here, like the 6 grid. And I can go up here and I can actually start searching for cameras by their name. So for example, I'll type in parking up here and you'll see that it now filters out all the cameras that mention parking within their name. And I can drag and drop these from their multiple locations. So for example, this one here. All right, and then I can rearrange this however I want. So I can kind of just drag and drop these ones over. And, if I want a view of my parking spaces, so I'm going to hit save over here. I'm going to name this parking. And now I've got a saved bookmark view for this parking view I just created. So if I go to my view tab over here, you'll see that I've got various ones. So I'm going to switch over to my outside view I created, into our main office view. And then I can go right back to our parking with just a click. And now, the awesome thing about this is multi-location compatible too. So we've seen tons of applications for this. We've had property management put all their gates in one view, or different community areas in one. Fast food places will put all their lobbies or cash registers. Gas stations will put all their pumps in there. The possibilities are really limitless in terms of how this allows you to break down the system and access things in more of a logical way than just spitting out the cameras by what order they're in. So um, that is the key kind of features we usually talk about on live view. Um, I will mention, just in case we do have any of our IT friends here on this call, one of my favorite features of ViewStation is that it's also very bandwidth friendly too. So there's things that you can see, like it switches between our various views streams we have, excuse me, and you can see like right now we're using quite a little, only a couple hundred kilobits per camera to display here. So you're not going to be crushing your bandwidth. That's obviously a big concern for multi-location, that some locations may not have the best internet. So um, but I can also set it to, when I double click this one, it does switch over to the full 4K quality, or whatever. This is actually happens to be a 4 megapixel camera, but whatever the highest quality is, and that way I can digitally zoom and get the most detail possible. So it's also very bandwidth friendly as well for any of our IT that's on this call. So, and I do know we have some questions here, which we'll get to in just a second. As I go through this, if there's any questions about live view, certainly feel free to filter them in as well. Um, I'll go ahead and I'll answer some of the questions now. So one of the questions was, I was hoping this will give me more info about setting up an NVR and camera system with Starlink at a location without a current electrical service, so possibly generator or solar. Um, Solar would definitely be your best bet, because a system like this does need constant power. These are ones that are designed for, getting constant power. I will give you like a little bit of a sneak peek. We are looking at a a 4G camera in the future that would just be able to use 12 volt, so you'd be able to maybe even hook it up right to that solar panel. or the battery there, I should say. Um, so if you want to reach out to us, we can get more specific. Our solution will work fine on Starlink. We have a lot of our customers actually on Starlink. You just have to have I believe the Ethernet adapter that they sell to make sure you can plug it actually physically into the internet connection. So, but feel free to reach out to us specifically if you kind of want to dive in. One of our security experts can get more specific with you. And then we have a question from Sebastian that's specifically about sharing accounts and how we actually share access. I will dive into that a little bit more. And I will say as well, if you want to reach out to us after this, we can kind of dive a little bit more deep into your individual questions there, just so we can get more specific about it and spend a little bit more time on that. That sounds like something we can dive into and potentially help. All right. So, um, so when it comes to live view, this should be something that allows people to access, very easily without clogging up bandwidth, and can give you a lot of insight into it. There's tons of other features like, the ability to listen to the cameras if they have a microphone and speaker. Most of us do have a microphone now. You can do PTZ controls, everything from here, of course. But we'll go ahead and table live view for now. And let's dive into the playback side of things. So, this is where we've seen probably our biggest changeover in the last year or two. Um, for those who have been in some of our webinars before, or even if you haven't, we did a webinar on the analytics just, was it last month or was it a month before? Some of them blend in a little bit, but we dove into kind of what that change has looked like. And what the change basically comes down to is AI has really revolutionized this industry in the sense that what used to be pixel-based motion, which means anything detecting is a motion detection. So from bugs, rain, sleet, snow, to now actually getting accurate people, vehicle, other information that is built right within the cameras. You're not paying additional, servers or anything like that to get these features, and it makes finding footage so much easier. And one of the things about our software solution here is it embraces that, and we'll show you kind of how that looks like. So in terms of playback, we've got two modes that we typically use to help find footage. So the first one is the most common timeline-based playback that we're all familiar with. So I'm going to jump into that. And it's similar to basically any other one you probably use, right? You select your camera. So I'm going to select the support entrance one here. Let's go to yesterday. Now, for those who maybe are also unfamiliar with just security cameras in general, um, every camera can be set to record on a schedule based on how you want to do it. It gets very customizable. But for example, on this one, we are recording what we call constantly. So that means that um, all the footage is here. So you can see this is at midnight and nothing really is going on besides seeing that this camera has really good low light capability. But nothing else is really going on, nothing interesting you can say. Um, but it still records that time. So, but you can see over here that we get these purple lines over here, and this indicates to us if there is a analytic event. So I can either choose to click them over here, or I can just kind of zoom in with my mouse wheel and I can kind of get specific. So if I want to see what happened here around 8:52, I can just click that, and I can see people leaving the door there. I can go back to this one that's around 8:51. I can see somebody come in here. So this just helps us find footage. If I'm looking for a person that walked in front of there, it definitely makes that process easier. And we also have another way of searching for this that's even makes it easier. But this just kind of helps if you don't really know what time is happening. Um, so let's just kind of scroll through again, and I'll just select another time here, like this 11:21. And let's just say I want this footage of this person walking in. It's really easy. We just have to click this clipping button. You can choose to either let this play through. This is a pretty short clip, so that's what I'm going to do. But if you fast forward or you jump ahead, you click ahead, that also is fine. And I'm going to click it again. And now you see our times listed. We can make any adjustments. So if you need to add more time, reduce time, you can actually adjust it from here. Hit OK. That's going to download to your computer as a video file, an MP4 file that then you can share off to whoever needs it. That way it's safe off the NVR as well. One other option of pulling footage from this mode, and there's so much more we could dive into, but I'll keep it pretty high level, is this download button over here. And you can see that all the different clips here. So anytime it mentions VCA, it's an analytic, but you can also specify time. So if I know I had an incident that happened around, I need all the footage that happened between, 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. that morning. I can pull that footage without even having to clip it or anything like that. Now, the last thing I want to cover in this mode is the multi-camera playback. So one of the questions that, select this one as well, we often get is how to do multiple camera playback and what that kind of looks like. So one of the things you may notice over here is that this one is at 11:23 and this one is over at midnight. And so what we're looking at here is what we call asynchronous playback. So what that means is each camera is controlled independently. So when I click this one and I click over here, I can switch this one to say 15 and it will switch this one, but it won't switch this one. Now, a lot of people want that to be one control so they can see what's going on at the same time. And you can do that by clicking this arrow button here. And this will switch it over to what we call synchronous playback, which means it's gonna, when I change one over, it will change the rest. So let's go ahead and click around noon here. And you'll see that both of them switch to noon. Now I'm gonna go to like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. over here. And you'll see that both of them also switch. So that gives you the ability to sync them up if you want to, or keep them separate if you want to. I know that's a question we get actually pretty often. So just as an FYI. One last thing on playback I did want to mention. Most of our newer systems actually do dual recording. So they will record both the full, in this case, this is a 4K camera, the full quality, but it also will record the second stream. So if you're in a location that has, internet upload issues, or maybe you just have bad reception or whatever, you can actually right click, go to the playback mode and hit SD, and this will switch it over and use a lot less data as you're scrubbing through footage. So that way if you have internet issues, it's a lot more responsive. So
I think maybe James, while you're on this view, those Jeff questions came through about time zones for different locations and maybe a little slow for him on different purple bars. Might be good to address while you're here. Not to cut you off.
no, you're good. And that might actually be what I was just sort of referring to. Jeff, if you were to switch that over to the playback mode and go to SD, that's going to use, you can see that this is using only 1.1 megabit per second, where if I switch this back over to the high definition version, that it is gonna use about 8. So it's using about 7 times less data to send this to me. So if you're remote and you're having like slowdown issues, this could actually help. We got decent internet at the office, so it's not, especially if I'm only just doing a couple cameras, it's not, you can see it's still responsive and everything. But how fast that comes up, especially if you're remote, so away from the location, is going to be really determined by mostly the upload speed at your location. And then I do see that time zone. I may have to get with you on the support team just to see what that looks like because I'm not 100% sure maybe what you're referring to there, but we can take a look. All right. So I mentioned that in terms of playback, this is the traditional way. A lot of people are familiar with this. They like using it because it's familiar. But we do have a second way. So if I close this and go back to our control panel, you'll notice that we have a VCA section over here. Now, for people who are current users of ViewStation, That might also be under the Smart tab over here. So if you click that, it might show up under there, which by the way, you can also drag and drop things over. So if you want to drag like a module over, you can actually do that just as a tip. Um, so I've got my VCA over here because this is where I typically will search for footage. And so from here, I can go to search over here. And I mentioned those analytics earlier. And so what that kind of looks like is I can go to that camera again and let's search for today. And I can do a search, and this is going to show us all the people and vehicle events that happen in front of this camera. Or so we can see the thumbnail over here, a little bit bigger. And then I can also play the video. And if I go, hey, I need this footage of this person walking out, I can just click the download button and hit OK, and I don't have to go back to that playback. Um, And then I can also, let me show you one that has both events here. So we can see that in this case, we get both vehicles and people. Of course, I can play the video, see the thumbnails. And again, if I want to download this, I could do that. But I can also specify, hey, I'm only looking for vehicles at the moment. Let me click that, hit search. And this will show us all the vehicles. So you can also export this as well if you want to into like a CSV file, and it will give you all the thumbnails if you want to. Um, but I can just kind of easily go through here and check all the vehicles that have passed by this morning and easily download any of them. So again, if I want this one over here, I can play the video and I can download it very easily with just a click as well. Um, you can search this on multiple cameras too if you want to. So if you can search it for one, you can search it for multiple days. So I can actually expand the search for a month at a time if you want to. So you have a lot of ability to, or even smaller if you want. Sometimes people only search for hours or whatever you want to do. But this will help you find footage much quicker than I think the traditional mode we just showed you as well. Now we also have other cameras too. I do want to mention that, for example, this commander camera over here, if I search for vehicles, let's go ahead and search for vehicles for the last 7 days. And you can see that we have 495 events from this camera over the last 7 days, so the last week, which is a lot of things to pull through. If you're kind of looking for, hey, there's a vehicle that caused an issue, but you don't know what time it happened, can be quite an issue. But sometimes it was a red car, right? So I can search specifically with this model for a red vehicle now. And now you can see that that actually reduced it down to 39 results. So now I can easily scrub through. Maybe I'm looking for a specific red vehicle, like maybe this K car over here. My favorite red car, besides this one. But so yeah, I can easily find any of the red cars that show up there too. So all of this is about saving time and making it easier to find footage, making you more likely to find that footage when it's in an unknown time situation. The last analytic I want to show you here is actually our newest analytic, and this is built within our newer NVRs. So we can give you a little bit more information on that towards the end here, but it is also built the into SW ViewStation as well. So we can do it very easily from a central point, but it's called Trace Search. And so what this allows us to do is, we see the image, the target image here. You can either upload the image or draw a box around them and playback to select it. But then what it will do is it'll search throughout all of your cameras to find events where this person's been in front of it. It uses, color of shirt, color of shorts or pants, shoe color, all that kind of stuff to help identify him. So you can see up here that I've drawn, or I drew the box around him when he was going down the stairs here. So it's seeing his front. But one thing I really like about it is it's really good about finding, all of that stuff in there. So here he is walking in, and the next camera he's in front of it is him actually walking into the building. And then you can see a couple minutes later, he leaves. Here he is outside there. And then I can see a couple hours later, his next time that he's in front of the main office or is in the main office is here when he goes to the other part of the office. And so when you have an event and you know who it is, like that's another key information. If you know who it is and you find them on one camera, you need to go through and find what else they did in front of the other cameras, right? And that could be a process that takes literally hours to go and figure out, okay, well, hey, I know that he also went into the other room over here, but I don't know what time he went in front of there. You may have to go and scrub through it. You may have to find it, but this just allowed me to do it within seconds. So, this has been a really popular feature, and now it is also available in ViewStation as well. So, and with that, that's kind of the typical rundown we do. We also, of course, have license plate features here too, where we can search for with our license plate camera for multiple locations if you want to. So, for example, other one up here, I can see all of the plates that happened the last couple of days here. And you'll notice the user interface is very similar to everything we just saw in the other search part. And then I can see this one over here, which is TDT, and I can just do a search for that and see that, this is the only time they've been here for the last 3 days. I can easily expand it to 7. And sure enough, they were here back on the 20th. So um, that's also built into it. Lots of other things. Another thing that I like for multiple locations is the EMAP function. This allows you to upload like a floor plan or a Google Maps image like you can see here, and then place any of the cameras where they're physically located. And it allows you to like double click to be able to see that camera. You can also set up the alerts, so it also gives you like a indicator that it detected an event recently. So, and I do want to mention that if you're a current customer or even if you're not and you're interested in learning more, feel free to reach out to us. If you are a current customer, you can get with our support team. We can also do trainings, which I'll kind of hit on in just a little bit as well. But yeah, I do see a bunch of questions here. Go ahead and see. Um, is there a way so that motion detection is not triggered by light or color changes? That's a really good question. There is a sensitivity slider on there that you can adjust, but I will say that the vast majority of our cameras that we have shipped, well, in our last like year and a half or so, do have those analytics. So if you want to reach out to maybe your account manager and just double check, they'll be able to see what cameras you have and whether or not they support that analytic. And if they do, you'll be able to turn that on and instead get much better recordings and events from that. So that way you're not relying on that motion detection. And then another question was outside of the remote management, if you have time to show the license plate, which actually I just went ahead and did. So I'll bring that up here in just a second, but you can see that as well. And feel free to, again to reach out to us if you want to get more into that. And then on night vision, yeah, definitely. This is a pretty exciting time for the industry. Really, we're starting to hit some of our first really, I think, mind-blowing night vision things. Like I'll just show you the Deputy over here. This is one of our newest night vision cameras. So you can see this is actually a pitch black area um, at night. And then we also have one that's over here. And not a whole lot going on here after hours, but this is at, midnight over here. And there's not that much lighting. We do have some videos and stuff that you guys can take a look at that where we walk in front of it at night and stuff to show you more of a interesting look at stuff that's going on. But this allows us to get real great night vision for much better than the infrared or even the other color night vision kind of gimmicky cameras in the day. So, and the next question we have was about if you have more than 64 cameras. This can display up to 64 cameras, which I think I only have like 50, but um, if you have more than 64 cameras and you want to view them live at the same time, yeah, you might want to look into a decoder like you're referencing there. Sometimes people will also even have like two computers if they want to like do that many cameras. Now, just to clarify too, you can only do 64 cameras live at a time, but you can have more cameras on there. So, for example, you could have 300 cameras available to you on the left here and then create different views. So you could do like, if you really want to see 64 cameras at a time, you could set up a view of cameras 1 through 64 and then so on and um, make that more accessible to you to switch over them very quickly. But I would say, if you have more than 64 cameras and you're trying to see that live, definitely reach out to us. There's a lot of different things we can offer as a solution there. Um, and a low to know a little bit more about what the application is for sure. And then Sebastian had a good question about the EMAP function. Is that per NVR or is that per ViewStation? This is actually per ViewStation, so you'll be able to import this in to ViewStation, and so if you have multiple NVRs at a location or whatever, you don't have to do it like multiple times. And one thing I will mention too, this is another tip and trick for our current existing users, is if you set this stuff up, obviously you don't want to set it up on every computer you do. So if you spend this time to create the EMAP, you want it to be probably a little bit more universal. You can actually export the configuration of ViewStation by going to the system configuration section here and then going to the maintenance tab, and you'll see an import export configuration. So for something like that, I typically recommend creating like a master configuration, so to speak. And then once you're finished with the major, things that you want to do, creating those EMAPs, creating those save views, import that, export that out, and then import it into any other computer that you have that you want to have the same information on. And then another question was, good one is does the VCA events require any specific NVR or version of models? So the most of the typical people vehicle analytic that we showed you over here. So if I just select this NVR, do a search. These are provided by the cameras. Basically, all but a couple of our cameras do support this now. So this is a pretty universal feature for us, and we can definitely make sure that if you're looking for a new system or if you currently have a system, we can let you know what capability you have at the moment. Um, as far as that trace search function, the one that is up here that allowed us to kind of search for Adam, our warehouse manager, going out around the office, that does require one of our newer NVRs, so it's we can give you the list of what that supports there as well. All right, so I'm going to get back into our presentation here, and this is where I want to give you guys some setup tips and considerations, and this is also where we may go into some of that questions we had about how to share access and everything like that. So one of the simple tips here, and I know this seems kind of basic, but one of the things you notice when I was creating those save views is I typed in parking and all of my parking cameras came up. And it's a very simple thing, but it's just naming your cameras. And what I recommend is as you're onboarding a new location, so as you're putting on a new location, make that part of your setup process if it's not already. We do it on our installation side too. It just takes a few minutes to name them. It's really easy. But what can happen if you don't name them early in the process is you end up getting to 12, 15, 20 locations and you have 400 cameras and they're all named, Warrior 8.0 V3 or whatever the model is, right? And then it becomes, something that, took 10 minutes per location to now feeling like it's going to take all day. And when we do name cameras, it just helps the end users, the people who are going to be using the system on a day-to-day basis, have better insight on, finding cameras, being able to create those save views, etc. Seems basic, seems small, but a lot of people do miss this step. And sometimes we get questions on like, hey, we know we should name the cameras, but how should we actually name them? I would recommend trying to keep these as specific, as consistent, I should say, across locations as possible. So, figure out the descriptions you want to use, whether that's, back, front, side, whatever you want to use there over there, or directional, so your north, south, etc. And the key point is you want those people who are interacting with the system, either the local users or the centralized users, to be able to know what that camera is just almost by the name as much as possible. So another tip and trick with this multi-locations and one of the big pain points is health checks. When you're managing, especially in a centralized kind of management role, a camera status, like whether that's a camera going down or potentially, like in this case, you can see that a spider web decided to make a spider web in front of the camera. Um, sometimes people don't, a lot of times people don't even look at the cameras live. Some of our customers are primarily and maybe even exclusively looking at it when they have an incident. And sometimes that they look at the incident and they see the spider and not the footage they need, right? And what I'd recommend is we do have some options for what we call health checks. You can also do this on your own if you prefer to, but basically once in a while we go, you want to go into the system and just double check to make sure things look okay, that the cameras are up and running. You can also set up alerts and notifications, which we'll talk about in just a second. Um, which actually dive into that a little bit right now. So you can set up things like if a camera goes offline alert, if a camera is being tampered with, which means it's being, intentionally blocked. That's another notification that you can set up within the system. And so keeping a track on that, again, especially in a multi-location, because you're not always as somebody who's centrally managing it there to even see the camera. Maybe if you're actually physically on the location, you can see the cobwebs in the corner or something like that. But if you're not physically there, it's very difficult to keep track of. So having the health checks and setting up alerts is definitely something we recommend for multi locations as well. Now the managing users and access. When it comes to multi-locations, you have a lot of people who need access to it. And the way that we do it is through the Star for Live section. And um, what we'll go into is what that kind of looks like. So basically, what it allows us to do is, and I'll show you kind of like up here, it creates a central area for all of our systems. So we add all of our systems to that one account. And then from there, you can see over here that when we click the share button, it allows us to share that with another user. And you can provide different permission levels. So you can see like we've got live view here, PTZ control, two-way audio, alarms, playback, and device configuration. We can choose which functions we want this person to have. We can also get more specific by creating roles. So maybe we only want them to have certain cameras or certain functions on that camera. Like maybe we only want them playback on some, live view on others. Again, can get very granular. And then from there, I can easily see who I've shared access with and revoke them as well. So you can see over here on the right that, it lists off everyone I have or just the people that are on this list at the moment. And I can hit delete if I want to, or revoke as well as if I want to as well. So um, what this allows the end user to do is, so you as the admin, it makes it easier. And actually, let me go ahead and even bring up one of my systems over here too, just to kind of give you a little bit more in depth since I know I had a couple questions about it. So this is what we're looking at here is our back end. And what this allows me to do again is to share access with somebody quite easily. So I just hit that share button. I would put in their email address. They do have to sign up for an account, by the way. first, but I would put in their email address over here, and then I would choose those roles. So again, if I maybe want them to have everything but that, and once you share it, that all they have to do is log into either SW Go, our mobile application, or ViewStation, and then that NVR would give them access. From here as well, I can also create, I can see the people who I've shared this with. So let me give you an example. I'm going to delete Ben from our system here, our sales director. So now Ben does not have access to our system. I don't have to go in and reset passwords or figure out, what account he had or anything like that. He just no longer has access and I don't have to worry about it. But for me to go ahead and share access with him again, I just have to put his email in here, give him what functions I want him to have, which is everything for him, and then I'm gonna hit share, and now he has access again. So sharing access and revoking access should be that easy. So next time he logs into either ViewStation or his SW Go app, he'll now have access again to that system. Um, I do want to mention too, we do have a full training on this that we can dive into for any of our current clients that want to learn a little bit more and best practices with this, just in the sense of time. But we can also do things like you can see I've got um, different folders here, so I can actually share. You see I've got a North Carolina folder, and I can issue out locations like Asheville, Greensboro, Charlotte. You can organize them however you want. It's basically just a folder system here. But I can choose to share either the root North Carolina. So if I want to share all my North Carolina systems with somebody, I can choose to share all of them. So there can be 20 systems under here, and I can share all my North Carolina ones to a user. Or maybe they're the manager of the Greensboro locations. I can share just my Greensboro locations with this person too. So there's a lot of functionality there that we can really dive into. If you're interested, just let us know. Um, and we'll definitely help you point that along for sure. And I see we have couple questions. Is SW looks like SW be in sleep mode or log out after a certain period of time? It's not set by default to log out or go into sleep mode. Your computer may have that setting on there in terms of like if Windows, if you it might go into screensaver or something like that, which would be a Windows setting that you want to switch. But ViewStation itself doesn't have like a sleep mode. And then the other one, is it possible to give different users different access to the same NVR? And absolutely. So you could set like, again, I'll go ahead and I'll pick on somebody else here. So let me delete William here. And I'm going to go ahead and share access to him again. But you notice that I gave Ben full access. But in this case, I don't want to give PTZ controls. I don't want to give device configuration. I only want him to have live view, playback, and alarms. So if I hit share to them, he'll now have different access level. So you can see over here that William has live view, alarm, playback, whereas Ben has live view, PTZ control, audio, alarm, playback, and configuration. So every user can have their own setup there. And you can actually go in and adjust it. So if I go like, hey, you know what, maybe I'll give you PTZ controls, I can actually override that too. Like I said, there is a lot we can do on this, and just in the sense of time, we'll go ahead and we'll move on for now. But definitely feel free to reach out to us for more information on it. Another thing is also organizational procedures with multi-location, and this is kind of creating like a standard operating procedure for the cameras, and setting up a clear chain of command or what happens when something is off, right? And or figuring out just the responsibilities of people, like when somebody is new, when they get a new manager or somebody needs access to the camera system, who's going to be responsible for actually issuing out, access? Who's kind of the gatekeeper there? Um, and what's the procedure if there's any issues? Whether that's maybe a camera goes down, whether that's maybe that they're having slowness at that internet. Who is going to be the one that those end users need to reach out to? Do they know how to act? Do they know how to access and reach out to them? Um, Another question, and this is really important for multi-locations, is what support exists. A lot of cases, you know, different providers have different support policies, obviously, and um, the question might be is like, well, I know me as maybe the IT person who's managing this rollout and managing the security camera systems. I know I can contact support for issues. Can the people at my company also call when they have issues with, say, how do I find a vehicle? Like maybe they don't know how to do that, right? You want to make sure that the people you're working with, that they can take some of that burden off of you, right? Because with our support team, somebody can give us a call, whether that's the manager at the location, the end users, whoever else wants to give us a call on basically anything. And that's could be, hey, I forgot how to do that trace search thing that, my boss told me about once, and, he's on a meeting. You can call our support team anytime to get that help as well. So it's not just technical support, it's also, support for how to use the system as well. And then my other thing to go along with that, right, is knowledge is power. Training, a small bit of knowledge goes a long way. If you spend just a few minutes going over ViewStation somebody, it goes from being something that seems maybe a little bit overwhelming with all the buttons and options to, to being seemingly very user friendly and easy to use. And this is where I do want to mention that we can provide training for your teams, whether that's like through a remote Zoom session, or we've also done these in person where we can go out to your location and give your teams a training. We could customize them for your different teams. So you may have teams that are far more technical and they want to kind of dive into some of the maintenance and upkeep. We've had ones where we do trainings on installation for the internal installation teams that multiple locations have. Um, and or it could just be the end users who are ultimately going to be pulling footage or whatever else. And we can also provide, and I would recommend providing any materials to your users as well, like we have YouTube tutorials, guides, etc., that can help them also help themselves sometimes as well if that's what they prefer. So, key point with that is just a little bit of knowledge can make the system go from seemingly overwhelming to manageable and easy to use. And that actually comes to our conclusion of this webinar. We got just a couple more minutes here for any kind of additional questions or anything else we kind of want to dive into. But I do appreciate everybody's, lots of questions we had on this one, attention and for joining this afternoon. Um, Dylan will be sending out a follow-up email for this. And Dylan, anything else that you wanted to add to that or anything else that you think we should cover?
I think that was a really solid overview. Good job on the demo. I think we got everyone's questions in. I know I've got a couple follow-ups support's going to do with a couple guys.
Yeah,
Um, that's it. Otherwise, yeah, Zoom takes like an hour to process, then we'll upload it to YouTube and send the link. So pretty much it.
awesome.
Cool.
And one question was 61 sites and 600 cameras. Yeah, there is actually an option for that. That's something we call it's basic. It's kind of like ViewStation, but it requires a piece of hardware to go along with it that allows us to do within ViewStation still six like up to 2,000 cameras, I believe, if I recall right. So if we want to reach out to, we'll have your account manager reach out to you and get in there. Um, since you're at that limit, right? So it's 64 sites. So you're under that, but you're over the 600 plus cameras option. So you can also switch between, which I think you might do as well. So you can like decide to view certain ones. So if I'm on ViewStation, um, you can choose to say like obviously I'm not close to the limit at this point, but I can choose to say, hey, I don't want to see the warehouse right now. Let me cancel that one, which removes it from ViewStation temporarily. And then if you go to the device details up top here, you can go ahead and add ones that, maybe you disabled previously. So it allows you to switch which ones you're viewing at a time. But, obviously that can be a little bit of a hassle as well. So, is there a way to set up groups with certain cameras and then assign them to different users? Um, Yes, there is a way to kind of set up that. It gets a little bit more specific. So what we need to do is create what we call a role, and that will allow you to set that role. So let's just say the manager only needs access to the outside cameras. We could create a manager role, and then you can share that same role with other people. So our support team can help out with that as well. And asking, I guess me asking if one of our reps can reach you out to you, and absolutely, we'll have them reach out to you as soon as we can on that. All right, just a couple more minutes, and we'll dive off here if there's no other questions. And just to check, is ViewStation just software? So ViewStation, what we're seeing here is just software. You only need obviously like the NVRs or cameras to use it. But there is a higher one. So once you get above 512 cameras or 64 locations, there's another stage that does require some hardware. That's more on we'll talk to you on an individual basis on that. But we have options that go above that. Like in one of our couple of our clients. Do go above that. Actually, decent amount of them do go above that. So there's also different solutions that you can do to work around if we don't want to get into the hardware and stuff. But um, ViewStation itself is pure software, no fees, no charge. The only caveat to it is it's only going to work with our equipment. So, and I will mention that if people who do have current systems, um, if you have like a different NVR, so if you have say a like Hike Vision or whatever NVR is out there, right? Most of the time, all you have to do is replace the actual NVR, and then that would allow it to have access through ViewStation. Now, you wouldn't get a lot of those features I showed you as far as like the analytic search and all that kind of stuff. That would definitely need our cameras too. But that's a way to get started. A lot of times, again, multi-location, you've got to do things in within budget, and you got to sometimes do things in stages. So some of our multi-location ones, they start off with just replacing their NVR, using their existing cameras, and then as time goes on, replacing cameras as needed to get more of those features. And another question as far as email notifications, how would we receive email notifications for each location? So there's two different types of notifications within our systems. There's either push notifications. Those would actually come from our mobile SCW Go application that is also multi-location compatible. So you can set different notification settings for each location if you want to on the mobile app for the push notifications. And then if you want to do email alerts, you actually set that up on each location as well. So then you can have different, alerts and everything like that for your your different locations if you want to as well. So if you want to have like somebody else get the notification from one location, somebody else get the other, that will allow you to do that too. And definitely, if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to our support team. They'll put you on the right path for that too. Another question is about integration with a gate access system or intercoms. At the moment, we don't have like an intercom built into the view station or anything like that, but we do have solutions for that that come through both either on a browser or a mobile app as well that we can definitely get you into or talk to you about. It's through our Avigilon Alta access control, which is a really great solution for access control as well, especially for multi-location. It's a really good one for that. All right, just a couple more minutes left, and we're happy to answer any last questions we have. But anything else, Dylan, before we do jump off?
I think that's it. Thanks for jumping on those. I was trying to get support to reach out, a couple reps to reach out. But no, I think that's pretty solid. I think that was a good overview. love watching James demos. Sure.
Yeah. Well, appreciate it. Yeah, and I appreciate everyone else's again your attention and questions. It makes my job a lot easier, honestly. So I appreciate it. And if you do have any other additional questions, if you think, oh man, I forgot to ask this, feel free to reach out to either if you're a current customer, your account manager, if you're, or anybody, the support team, they'll be able to help you out as well. We're happy to help anything you need and answer any questions you have. So. With that, doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in, so I'll let everyone jump off here. Have a good rest of your week, and see you next time. Take care.
Thanks, guys.